We're out here on the range, guys. We have the full spectrum converted camera, so I wanted to take an opportunity just to run down through all of this kit on the table. Just kidding, actually, we're just gonna be talking about the Illuminators. But the Illuminators are one of those things that as you start getting out and you start playing with night vision, it's hard to tell what the right Illuminator is gonna be for you. There's always new lights and stuff coming out on the market, and each one has its own strengths and weaknesses. So I'm gonna show you just some of the ones that we have out with us tonight. One thing to keep in mind, this is not all comprehensive. We only have the ones that we have, but there are some relevant ones here. Hope it helps you guys out. So we're gonna start off with a TLR VIR. This is in no particular order just because I have it here on the table. This is what I would consider a very budget laser illuminator. It works really well for what it's designed for. So on that VTAR popper down there, we've got the laser. You can barely see the illuminator lighting the path up here. And let's actually flip around. So right there at 50 yards, you can see the illuminator. Really what I tell people, the VIR2 is good for about 50 yards. The laser's good for way further, but when it comes to the illuminator, it's pretty weak. It really is designed to be a pistol light. It works well as a budget carbine light like I have here. Just know that the illuminator is kind of lacking when it comes into the output. Then on my Uzi, we have the D-Ball A3, and I'm gonna actually flip this over to laser illuminator. So there you guys go on the VTAR popper. Now what you'll notice is it's gonna have the same power laser as the TLR VIR2, but the flood is way more defined. It's got a perfect circle, and this is as tight as it goes. So let's go down here. I'm actually gonna turn off the laser and just do the illuminator. So right there, like I said, 50 yards, you can tell it's a much more pronounced illuminator. You might be able to get 100 yards, 75 yards out of it. Honestly, it's not that great of an output. And I think that the illuminator output is more important, honestly, in the conversation than even the laser, because the citizen class, civilian class lasers, although they're neutered, they are gonna do fine for you. Moving on to the WML. WMLs put out a decent amount of infrared, but as you can tell, there's literally no focus beam whatsoever. And I think the reason for that is WMLs are primarily designed to be a white light, and I think that the infrared is kind of an afterthought. If you're going into a room or whatever, this has enough that it'll light up the room, but it is just a massive amount of flood, and you're not gonna get any focus really. So let's go down here to 50, show that to you guys. As you can see, like on the ground in front of us, it's intense. It's actually making my PVS-14s auto-gate a little bit. They're kind of flickering. Looking out to 100, I mean, you can see, but it's just not that great. Now we've got the Weld Tool. This is the LH2 with the BB3 body. This thing's a beast. So right there you can see that's a massive amount of focused infrared, and then it's got a really nice flood as well. So you can use this to obviously see around you, but then if you need to punch out, like up there's creepy neighbor, you can really punch him in the face and see exactly what's going on. Down here at 50, you can see it's just a blinding amount of infrared. That's 100, and all the way out to 200, I can clearly see if there was a fox or something out there, I would be able to tell. I'd see eyes, I'd be able to see movement and things like that. These are awesome because they're a budget, and you can get tons of bodies, different heads and stuff like that. There's a bunch of options with the Weld Tool lights. Going on to the Surefire X300v. This thing is better than the WML, I would say. So if I had to choose between the two, I would say this definitely has a more focused beam. It doesn't really have the flood that the Inforce has, but honestly, there's a decent amount there, but it is a really focused beam. We'll come back to 50 here. You guys can see it's just a really intense spot there. Out to 100, you can clearly see. Further than 100, I mean, I can make out the shooting bench, but really this is a 100 yard and in infrared illuminator. Then we have what everybody's talking about here, KIJI. Let me power this thing up. So right there it is on high mode. You can see it's kind of in between the Weld Tool and the Surefire. It's definitely got a really focused beam. I can see creepy neighbor clear as day. 50 yards is intense, very, very bright light, very focused beam. And for the size of this particular light, that's kind of a crazy output. You can see out to 200. As you get out to 200, you'll notice it's a pretty big flood, but you could see out to 200. So this has comparable output to the Weld Tool, much smaller footprint. So now we've got the FoxPro here. Check this guy out, maybe. There we go. Focus this guy in. So the FoxPro is really a hunting light. You can really open her up wide to flood everything if you want to, or focus it into a really intense square. And there's Creepy Neighbor up there. You can see all of these different targets. Very, very intense light. On the 50-yard mound there, that's fully focused, and then that's wide. So even with the widest setting, 200 yards is easily seen. Focus this bad boy in, and that's just a crazy spot down there. Look at it in the trees. Very, very intense. Now this isn't what you would call your normal defensive light. It's massive. I mean, as you can see, I wouldn't really put this in the backpack. I know Ethan does. Ethan literally lugs this thing around with him everywhere, but he's hunting a lot more than I am. For my guns, they're really set up as defensive rolls. So this is a little big if you're thinking of it for a defensive purpose, but if you're out predator hunting with a PVS 30 or something like that, this is a solid option and probably one of the best lights that we've played around with. The last Illuminator laser I want to show you guys is the MAWL-DA. We'll first hit just the laser just to show you a full power laser right there on the VTAR popper. You can see that massive bloom there. Right there is the Illuminator. So hitting Creepy Neighbor up there, laser Illuminator. This reminds me a lot of the KIJI. So look at that, the 50 yards, 50-yard mount I should say, out there to 100 and then 200. So you could easily shoot with this particular light out to 200, possibly further. You can't really see out beyond the tree line there. So pretty intense as well. So guys, I hope that was helpful. Like I said, I know that it's not an all-encompassing rundown of the lights. Picking the right infrared light is kind of confusing. There's a lot of money in lights here, and it's kind of scary sometimes to just go out and dump a bunch of money on a light when you haven't actually seen it. So I hope that this video moved the needle forward a little bit for you, gave you a little bit of information. If it did, let us know down in the comments below. And if you want to see a different infrared illuminator or there's something new on the market you think we should show you, let us know in the comments, hit us up in the DMs, and we'll get on it.